right, you guys, welcome back to the Komo show. I am Rinima, aka Momo.
Hi, this is me, Jane.
And we are back with yet another topic. Yeah, so we've spoken about such real and raw topics, and today's is again, I think, associated with how each one of us has felt. I felt it recently. Jane is going to talk about hers, but we are talking about grief. We want to again keep it as authentic and as raw as possible. We want to talk about how grief looks different
For everybody. Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
There are different ways of expressing it. For me, I truly, if I think of grief, it is my father. I haven't felt any sort of loss before that. I mean, the first death in my family, of course, there are uncles and aunts and all of that, but nothing like my father. Like I lost him 6 years ago, and up until today, I feel like there's a stone in my chest. I cry every second I think of him. So for me, grief is my dad.
I think grief for me is just with every single day. I know it sounds awkward to talk about, but with every single day, just the loss of that day is sometimes grief to me because when it accumulates and collectively shows itself as like a decade. Like I spent the last decade trying to find love, and now I'm like, fuck it. I'm just like, I've reached that, I will talk about the stages of grief later on. But for me, grief is just about sometimes some parts of your life, when you look back, you're like, was it this life or the last life? Like just loss of time, people, and also rediscovering yourself. So grief for me is more like a daily thing that I have to sort of battle with.
See how it's different for us already, right? For me, like, I don't have that perspective at all. Like, for me, it's just been missing somebody who I will never be able to talk again. Someone who was so dear to me, who spoke to me every single day.
When you did talk about your father-in-law a couple of months ago,
2 months ago, yeah, almost.
I saw your stories and it kind of brought to mind, when you have your parents around, I think when you see people go through this from a different perspective, somebody else's grief helps you process how you may not be spending time with the people that you
Of
love.
course, here's another aspect I want to talk to about my father-in-law. I lost him 2 months ago. And again, I didn't feel the same kind of grief that I felt with my dad. And I am not guilty about it. You know how society has a way of making you feel guilty. Oh, look at her. She being the bahu, she's not crying enough. Or she being the daughter-in-law, she's not sad enough. She's back to the gym. She's this, she's that in less than 10 days. But I just want to be authentic to myself. I want to be true to myself, how I felt grief. But I got that message a lot, where a lot of girls were like, oh my God, Rinima, the more you speak about your dad, I feel like I'm not spending enough time with my father. And I'm always suggesting, do it. Because I wish I did spend more time with my dad. I surely do.
And I did meet my dad, because we don't, nowadays, I don't think children live in the same cities as their parents anymore. They're all hustling in different cities. Yeah. So when I saw that, and I'm sure a lot of people who watched you share your story also went back, people, whether they're living with their parents or not.
Yeah.
And there might be a little more of, we don't know how much time we have with people we love, not just with our parents, but with family, with partners, with anyone for that matter, right? So I think celebrating every single day and coming
so
back on
important.
track is important because
100%.
I mean, the other side of grief on a coin is joy.
100%.
Yeah.
I think, again, it is so sad and unfortunate that I had to lose my dad to kind of understand that. Because I was so busy living my life worrying about the future and, what's the next day has, that I completely forgot to live my present up until I lost dad. And like I said, that's what one of my biggest regrets is, that he had to pass away for me to understand that. And now I live in the present. I believe in the power of now, because I had so much time with him. And I remember towards the end, when he was really sick, he would long to spend time with me, and I would rather choose and prioritize to spending time with my boyfriend or like with my friends. I don't know, maybe because I did take him for granted in whatever ways.
I think we all do. I mean, when it comes to family and the closest people, they say the people that you take most advantage of, or
Not the very close ones.
yeah, always.
You know what Jane and I really want to talk about today is, why is it that there is this weird expectation from humans, from society, that everyone is supposed to grieve in a certain structured way, a human-made structure?
So, I have an answer for this.
I know you do. Why did you ask you this? Of course I know
There
it.
is a psychological reasoning behind this. So you of course know about the 5 stages of grief. You've
I
read
do
about
not
it.
know.
Okay, so it's usually denial, anger,
Correct.
bargaining,
Yeah.
depression,
And then finally acceptance. Yes.
That's what
yes,
it is.
yes, yes.
This was by Elizabeth Ross. But
Yes.
honestly, you are right about different people having different timelines of how they deal with their grief, because there is something called oscillation that happens, right?
Yeah.
Now, oscillation is a modern psychological concept which actually talks about you swinging back between grief and normal life. So one day you're broken,
Next
one
day
day
you're like,
you're
yeah.
laughing, and
Yeah.
you're like having a good time. One day,
Is that because you're in denial?
yes, but what happens is this is not the classic case of going in the same stages. So maybe one day you're depressed, one day you've accepted it, but you could go back into denial, and then
Right.
again you're angry.
Ah, so you're saying that there's different phases.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be like a computer process where it's a sequence that we follow.
I mean, we're humans after all,
Right.
right?
Bounce back and forth.
Yeah, which is why possibly like you might have actually snapped out and in 10 days you're back in the gym. But 15 days later something might happen and
I
then
missed him and I cried while diving back from the gym. I remember that I was like, shit, Papa, what happened? Like, why did you pass away? You were my only supporter. I get what you're saying.
yeah, so that is what it is. So, and even they say that in a lot of movies and books, they talk about it. 20 years later, when you like have maybe the grief has become a part of your body or your structure, your soul, it might still come back and haunt you. But that is what grief is about, or loss of love is, because they say grief is actually love with no place to go. It is love, but the person is not there, or the situation has changed. But then you go back, there's nostalgia, there's pain, there's regret, and then there's like this full cycle of like acceptance. So it is just like
I just
non-linear.
wish this is a part of a school curriculum.
I
And I'll
really
tell you
wish.
why.
Yes.
Because I feel like we need open dialogue.
Totally.
And we need education. We want to bring awareness to the fact that the whole expectation of everyone having to grieve a certain way is utter bullshit, and it must be undone. And the only way to do it is feel your feelings as authentically as you can. Like that's what I do. So, even recently, one of our greatest singers from Assam passed away just a few days ago, Zubin Garg. Love him. He's the only Assamese artist that I have ever connected to. Okay, so when he passed away, I of course wanted to pay a tribute, but it did take me some time to understand how I was going to do it, because it's social media and you want to be, you don't want people to give more reasons to hate. So I did it in my own way. And some of the backlash is like, look at this woman. She's like on full blown makeup and she's like, grieving. But the truth is, he was an artist who I associated with through music. I wouldn't feel the same grief for him as I felt for my dad, or if anything happens to someone close to me. I am sad, but I'm not necessarily sad the same way, but people just wouldn't get it.
So when Charlie Kirk, the recent
Yes,
shooting happened,
and there was so much commotion. Oh my God.
also there was a lot of backlash
Of
to the
course,
wife
there's a lot-
because she had a full face of makeup. And I'm
Yes.
like, dude.
And people
I
call
mean-
her demonic.
Yes.
People call her like she is the next demon. I understand there's a lot of reasons for people to not like Charlie Kirk. He did things that maybe not everyone agrees with. I don't even want to comment on that. That's maybe another episode. But I think it was so unfair.
Yeah, it was very unfair to her, and why? And there's a lot of also trolling. Of course, that was mainly because of Trump and his hug at the funeral,
My
which
God.
they called performative. But my entire, piece on that is, I think when you grieve somebody who's more a public figure,
Yeah.
like when Kobe Bryant died,
Right.
there is some sort of
Collective
healing,
sadness, right?
collective sadness, and a
And
collective
healing because everyone's mourning together.
Yeah, so it also happened when the Twin Towers happened.
Right.
They say that, when you lose somebody who you don't know, there's also certain grief because you're like, you're seeing the guy and then he's not there the next
Anymore,
minute.
yeah.
Or, so that also it strikes a chord with you because you're like, this could happen to any of us anytime.
Yeah, I think it just gets more relatable.
Yeah, and which is why I feel whether it's performative grieving, as people would put it on social media, it's you just talking about somebody you loved, an artist you related to, and you paid tribute. So if people have a problem with that, it means people have a problem with literally every fucking thing.
Exactly. It's literally finding another reason where
To hate.
you have an option to project your, excuse to project your insecurities,
So I want to tell you a story about, it's a very short story, but I actually watched this reel mainly because we were talking about grief. Grief is especially when you lose someone. So scientifically, spiritually, symbolically, people say what happens to the body when body dies, right? When the body is done. Physics says that energy cannot be destroyed.
Okay.
It can only be transformed. And so grief is usually, sometimes you're wondering, where has that person gone? Where is my dad?
There
So
is
I
something I want to add to this after you finish.
yeah. So I have an answer to that a little bit, and then you can tell me whether you relate to that.
Yes.
So there was this chick who was in a bar, okay? She had this strange itch in her arm or leg or something like that. She goes to this guy and says, I just in curable need to tell you that I have, this itch in my arm or leg. So this guy's like, fuck, he just sits down with this. He's like, what the fuck are you saying? And then this girl's like, why are you reacting like this? Like, then he tells her, before his dad passed away, his dad said, if I am alive or my energy continues in any other form, in any other universe, I will come to you through a random stranger and say that, she has an itch in her arm or leg.
I have goosebumps. I don't have hair, but
So,
that's
I mean, there was a
crazy.
crazy reel that I watched, and I read a lot on theory of
Spirituality and stuff.
continuity and spirituality and, where the body goes, where the soul goes. So, I do feel that, when our journey ends here on earth, and I'm not talking about, like religion talks about, a next life or whatever. I'm just saying, I think the energy continues somewhere else. So your dad is very much alive, and that energy is still there somewhere. It can't have just gone. The body is gone.
Yeah, but then
So I feel that. Do you sometimes feel a bird coming
of
to
course,
you?
don't you know I share this
Yeah,
Instagram
yeah,
every
yeah.
single time. And this is insane and call me mad or whatever. So when I got married to Gotham, and I was pregnant, and unfortunately I miscarried on the 4th month. And I was very upset because, I was really looking forward to having that baby and I was excited to be pregnant. And I was really sick, like for a good 7-10 days, mentally and physically. Okay. And I started noticing that on the second day, there was this specific bird, which is, we call it the Brahmari kite. It is a kite which has a white body with like those brown muddy color wings, right? And it would come and sit on my bathroom and it'll call. And I opened the door and it'll always be there. And then I got better, it went away. Then I got COVID and it was back again.
The same bird.
The same bird. Hang on, you're in for a treat. And then it started happening so that whenever I was in a sad mood or I was depressed, and the bird will be there.
In this house?
In this house.
Oh my God. Okay.
And then we realized that the bird only comes when I'm around, because whenever I would go for a vacation, my staff would be like, the bird never comes. It's only when you come here. And then it started coming every single day. And it will sit based on where I am. If I'm in the bathroom, it goes to the bathroom balcony. If I'm in the gym of my house area, it is in the gym balcony. If I'm in my study, it is in my study balcony. So everybody knew that the bird was following me around. Okay. And then it was crazy. There was this one time I had a fight with Gotham and I just got angry and I went to meet this friend and I'm sitting with him and I'm like, I think I just want to get a divorce and this and that. And I see the same bird just spinning around. Like, get your act together.
It was your dad.
It is my dad. And I recently went to Pune and I lived alone in the hotel and the bird was there, the same color. It's insane. I immediately called Gotham and I said, dude, it's insane. The other day, Miss Momo was relaunching and he was here. So it's insane. I know it's different beliefs, but for me, it is just
I randomly said bird.
Yeah.
Because I've heard this from my mom.
Right?
Yeah, but
I thought you saw my Insta story.
No, I really actually have not.
And
I usually follow your stories, but this I haven't seen.
It's pretty rare. I have been posting about this bird for the last 4 years. And most of the people who follow me on Instagram knows about it. In fact, and then I looked up on ChatGPT what it meant, and it said that this specific Brahmari kite is supposed to be like, Lord Vishnu. In our religion, we have different kind of gods, and then it's supposed to be form of Lord Vishnu, and it usually comes to tell you that it's a guiding angel is looking over you. And kites fly very high. So they apparently have a way to carry messages from the other realm and also take messages back. So I definitely feel it's my dad. And it's so.
I mean, that gives me hope that, all of us will have that guiding angel. Somebody we're so connected to, like our parents, pass on to the next life.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, that gives you some amount of, I don't know, happiness. Yeah. In my own selfish ways,
Of course. And it coming in these very crucial moments.
Exact. I'm telling you, it's like
I actually have
I have multiple evidences and instances to prove that it is not a coincidence and it is truly symbolizes something. And that's
The
something.
funniest part was when you fought with Gotham, it still came and said,
It's a
"No."
better go home. He's a good guy. And there are days when Gotham's like mean to me or he's fighting and he's right there watching. And I'm like, Gotham, my dad's watching. You better be nice to me. And he's like, oh shit, sorry, Papa. There's that whole internal joke going on. I think the next one is pretty similar to what we spoke about, why society has like a structured way of everybody showing grief or expressing grief in a certain way. The third thing that we really want to talk about is why is it that people think they can police your grief? Like, who are you? Grief police?
Yeah, I think people want to police everything, like the
Not
morals and ethics of a woman, what she does, or
what she should wear,
Yeah.
where she should go, who she should date,
yeah, how much PDA is allowed,
how much she should sit,
how much
how-
she should travel, spend her money.
how she should look like. Everything. Basically, you're right.
Yeah. And they're policing grief because they're like, if you're battling with grief, why the fuck are you also, showing joy?
How are you sitting in a studio and filming if you are sad? How do you have makeup if you are sad?
Yeah.
How do you have your hair all done up if you are sad?
I think it was Virat Kohli or one of those cricketers who's, who went on the field right after his father died and hit a century. I'm not sure which cricketer that was.
That was celebrated
It was celebrated.
because he was a guy.
Yeah, exactly. Or because he just is a sports star and an icon.
It is so bloody biased, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Because, if you and I would do it, then, as
Look
content
at her.
creators, yeah, look at her. Why is she
just
doing
go
it?
to a beauty pageant?
Yeah.
Your father-in-law just passed away 4 months ago.
Yeah.
But it's a competition like how Virat Kohli is. I like it. Literally just such hypocrisy, And I think, like she said, I think people just love policing you for everything that you do. So I think the only way is to just put a blind eye to it.
Absolutely. There is a theory to it. It's called the hustle grief balance. And I dug this up especially for you because I wanted to understand, especially people who hustle. You said you wake up at like what time?
4:30 a.m.
And you sleep at
9:30.
and the whole day your schedule is chock-a-block, right?
It is, yeah.
So there is a reason why people who are extremely self-motivated to do things just like you do, there is a reason why this happens, right? In general, capitalism today or social media hustle culture or the hustle culture in general does not pause. That doesn't pause because your heart's broken or because,
True,
your
yeah.
mind is processing
It doesn't
grief,
care.
right? Now, hustle culture makes you guilty for slowing down, but you're not showing up because you feel guilty. You're showing up because it's a lose-lose if you're going to let your
Someone else maybe
dictate your what you do. So psychologists talk about this is resilience, and resilience is not about ignoring grief. You integrate it. So what happens is you sometimes hustle, you sometimes rest. You don't get stuck in between. You're not frozen like in a balance. You just go yo and yo. It's like an oscillation.
Right.
So it's all right and completely okay to throw yourself into work. It's all right one day to take that break and maybe just sleep for 3-4 hours or go meet friends or whatever. Nobody has the right to tell you whether to hustle, whether to rest, whether to go off social media, whether to
because everyone
go on
deals with
holiday.
grief in their own way.
Yes.
Right. I remember I started working on the third day of my dad passing away. And I remember my manager from Delhi is like, no, Rinima, I don't think this is healthy. We want you to go off for 13 days. I said, please, I beg of you.
Yeah, because maybe your way of dealing with it is doing things that help
Take
you
my mind off.
Yeah, process it better, right?
Truly, because, all these years, 6 years, I feel like I have done better with accepting the fact that he has gone away. But then recently when I was traveling alone and I was staying in a hotel room for 5 days,
I saw that.
I broke down because I had the time. And the moment I had the time, it just came back to me that he was. And then I saw the bird and I was like, oh my God, he's actually gone and he's not going to see me. Maybe
He's
shine on a
possibly
stage.
seeing you.
Yeah, 100%. Like,
It's just that you are not seeing him.
and that's the
That's
thing
the
that I
thing.
want to talk about.
Yes.
When I went to therapy after my dad passed away, because I was doing weird things. I was trying to go to YouTube. I thought I'll get into voodoo. I'm gonna get into like Ouija boards and call the soul back and all that crap. And then I came across Sadhguru's book, which is Death, an amazing book. It's gonna really help and handhold you throughout your grieving process. I recommend it highly to everyone who is maybe lost a loved one. And then when I went for therapy, is when the therapist kind of brought it up saying that, Rinima, think about it for a second. Now, the reason you're grieving is because you are selfish. You are not worried that he has lost his life. You are worried that you're no longer going to get the unconditional love and attention that you were getting from this specific person in your life. So actually, grief is very selfish. We are selfish that we are not going to get the time. It's not about the other person going away. It's about you not having what you always had. So it's selfish in its own way.
But it's also on the other, if you flip it a bit, if you didn't have that connection, you wouldn't even grieve,
That's what
right?
makes us human, right?
Yeah,
The very
yeah.
essence of us being human is definitely that connection.
I
But
mean,
I think,
unless you are super attached to somebody you've lost, you would not feel it that hard.
but then what is it that you're feeling, right? I mean, why is it that you love that person? Think about it. And I went in depth with the therapist and I'm like, he's like, why is it that you love your dad so much? I said, because no one's going to ever love me like him. Why is it that you love your dad so much? Because he cared for me deeply. He did everything for me unconditionally. So he's like, it's everything about what he did for you. But did you love your dad for who he was as a person? Do you think he's in a better place now because you were struggling with his health? So maybe he's in peace. He no longer has to worry. Actually, if you look at it, he's in a much better place energetically than he was in this unfair, mean, bloody world, And that really helped me kind of see the perspective and like put things into perspective, you know what I mean? And I was like, yeah, Rinima, maybe you are being selfish. And all maybe I can do is be grateful that he was a part of my life. I had a father in my life, which many people don't have the opportunity to have. And I think I dealt with my grief better. And I don't know, I keep saying this because it's definitely a very important perspective to look at if you see.
Absolutely. I think that, your therapist definitely helped you through that. And we often only look at what we have lost when we lose someone.
Yeah.
It's something I didn't think about. And
Up until now?
yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, I could see you were like, you're taking it back. You're like, wait,
Yeah.
I can see you thinking.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about even like not just loss of a parent, but also loss of a
Anything.
relationship,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like sometimes you look back and you're always probably more upset because that person did so much for you or loved
Yes.
you,
Or you had a great time going out with that person.
and
or
you don't have that anymore.
anymore.
So
it's not
more about
necessarily
you.
the person, it is about you. That's why it's important that you grieve as for you. Because it is about you. It was never about the other person, not the one who passed away, not the one who is judging you, none of them. It is a very personal thing, which is why it's extremely important to grieve in a very personal manner.
Absolutely.
Like-
With no one commenting on it at all.
Yeah, I mean, look at it even
It's so
historically,
personal.
right?
Yeah.
Traditionally or historically. Now you're Catholic.
Yes.
I was Hindu.
Right.
Now, in your funerals, you guys wear black.
Yes.
Right? In our funerals, we wear white.
Correct.
Black is considered to be not a very holy color in our tradition, but in your tradition, it is considered to be the most holiest.
Absolutely.
In certain Catholic families, alcohol is allowed in the funeral. In our family, 13 days, forget alcohol. We don't do it.
Also, we bury and you burn.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in our tradition, 13 days, we are eating vegetarian food, no oil, no spices, So it's different, you see. Even traditionally, religiously, historically, grief has always been different.
I watched this reel where, this brother celebrates his sister's death because she said, she was in pain and she said, when I go, you will throw a party. Because I am a happy person and everyone has known me as this little Miss Sunshine.
Oh.
And so, she said, throw a party, where it's just up, by the rolling meadows, which is blue skies, invite everyone, have a, little talk, a conversation, celebrate me because that's how I would like to be.
That's so sweet. I have seen more traditions doing that as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is the Tamilian community or which community, I may be wrong.
Yeah,
but I have
is
seen
it
that
Pangutu?
Right, I've seen that in
I've seen it
Bangalore.
called some other whatever.
Where they say they do a lot of like the drums and flowers because they believe this specific community that you should bid farewell to someone the exact same way you welcomed that person when they were born. And I think that is beautiful. But again, not policing anybody. I think that's their way of doing it.
So when I read about it, it's just basically every faith, every community has a certain bunch of rituals, which
Yes.
is what you explain.
Right.
And different rituals help you process grief in different ways.
Right, exactly.
That's
I was a
really-
fan of my ritual, again, not judging, because what really helped me was, the spiritual intervention when I lost dad. Like, as for our ritual, what happens is when we bury, my dad did not have a son, so my sister and I did the cremation, we buried him. And as per our Hindu tradition, what happens when you bury somebody for 13 days, we have to mandatorily listen to Bhagavad Gita readings. So every day a priest comes over and he does a reading for an hour and a half and he breaks everything down of what happens to a soul once he passes away. And I felt like that sort of spiritual intervention really helped me as a person at that time. It helped me resonate of what souls are and what we human beings do on this earth, what is our purpose and what happens when we go away, and how is it that we help transcend the soul to go to the other realm, so on and so forth. You get into it, which you would have never even thought. I didn't even know this existed. I'm a Hindu for 37 years and I learned all of this at the age of 32, and that was the beginning of my spiritual journey.
Absolutely. I think as Christians, we have something called All Souls Day every year.
Look at that. Yeah.
We actually celebrate the souls that have departed. And, there is a mass that you go to. I mean, not that I'm extremely religious, but I do listen to my mom and dad. There are days that, you go to the cemetery where you see your entire family, your ancestors.
Yes, you feel like this is the day the souls come.
Yes.
Right?
And then I've also seen in different cultures and religions where they,
food.
Yes.
We have the same thing. We call it something else. I did it just 3 days ago.
Like that person's favorite food. So, I mean, there are different ways different people and cultures process grief, but I feel that the best way to kind of do it is a way, like you said, that's a combination of things that you believe can actually help you, go towards the light.
Absolutely. Like the reason we are saying that it's different for everybody is for you fools to understand. Grief is so different. Someone might be crying with a full-blown makeup.
Yeah.
Someone might not shed a single tear and might be way more heartbroken than a one who is maybe howling and crying at the top of their voice.
Absolutely.
So please just be kind and just know that grief has different faces and no one has the right to tell someone how they should or should not be grieving. Bottom line.
Absolutely. And there is a mic drop moment when it comes to dealing with grief at some point in your own life, which is choosing joy. And that's something I read about. Apparently, a lot of people around you, when you're grieving the loss of, someone close to you, they expect you to crumble, and that's okay that you do.
Right.
You will, like a bit.
That's not okay.
But I mean,
no, Jane.
I mean, if you crumble for just a bit for that minute or for that moment, if it happens, it happens. I mean, if it doesn't, also it's okay. But what they say is about choosing joy, whether you're traveling or laughing again or going for a pageant or whatever it is that you plan to do with your life and your schedule. Choose you now, because the loss cannot steal the rest of your life.
It can't.
Because
that's detrimental, right?
Someday you're also going to go.
Of course.
When I was little, I used to always count, like, I'm 5 now. How many more years
I count that now.
I used to count that from then. And now I'm just like, so you're also grieving the loss of your own life with every single day, right?
You are, right?
So you might as well live your life and let the grief blow you sometimes, and sometimes let it just blow over and let it be replaced with joy. Is how I look at it.
And I don't know how much we have to press on it. Like, it is true, like, grief is grief. We feel sadness, but I think bouncing back up is so necessary. And this book I recently read, I'm blowing its trumpet forever.
What is the book?
Power of Now.
Okay, wow.
I kept doing readings, and it is a beautiful, beautiful book that talks about how you have to consciously and mindfully choose the now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, because this is not just for grief. I think this is just for life.
Yeah,
right?
Because all the problems either exist in the past or in the future. Nothing exists in the now.
And you're mostly living in the past or the future.
And that is
sad.
And that is what it said. The book says, imagine the collective psyche of 7 billion people. And out of 7 billion, let's assume 5 to 5.5 billion people are continuously just emitting out worry and pain and negativity. Can you imagine this universe? But we're saying the power of now basically is not just a book. It talks about being here now. It's also going to help you deal with your grief. I think something to touch base on of, how sometimes grief doesn't come immediately. It comes later. And this one, again, I'm going to circle back to the stages that you spoke about. So first you deny, and then you get really angry that this happened to you. And then you start bargaining, why this has happened to me, why didn't, and what was the fourth one you said?
Depression, because that's when
it
will hit you.
And then you rise back up with acceptance.
Yeah.
I think it's so true, and that's why I feel people react to grief differently.
Yeah.
Because you don't know which stage of it you are at.
And I told you, right, you're oscillating constantly. So you don't know, it's never linear. Grief is non-linear.
So maybe someone starts with depression.
Yes.
Someone starts with anger.
Yeah.
Someone starts straight with acceptance.
Someone starts with just joy or denial. Like, they just don't know what is happening.
I've seen people, when someone dies, they just drink a lot, party a lot.
And like, while we say that there are different stages, I know certain people who process grief in a very, very different way. They go into an absolute slump.
Right after that was depression, where I was like, oh my God, I don't want to get up from my bed. I just want to be here. I passed months on it. And then I said, no, Rinima, he is gone, and he will not be proud to see his own daughter that he loved so much this way.
And deteriorate.
His most important. So accept it. And then I started doing things to accept it. Like I did therapy, I read books. And so, like, it's true. Like, and I know people are judging me. My own mom was judging me, like, because again, as per our Hindu culture, when you cremate somebody for a year, you're supposed to have a very normal lifestyle.
And it's not just you, dude. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, people go through, like, just to numb the pain, they do things that are explicitly different from what they would otherwise do in life.
Yeah.
But I think that's also a part of the process, right?
100%. And
Like,
that's what we're trying to shed light
yeah,
on,
if you
right?
do
Like,
not go into a slump, or if you do not go into something crazy, or I think I was watching Georgia and Me, where that guy is processing his best friend's death, which is why he's emotionally like stunted, because he just says like he loves this girl,
Yeah.
but he's not able to actually love her because he's emotionally dead.
yeah.
And sometimes that
he's
happens.
a depression.
Yeah, he is
That's
a
the phase
depression.
that's the way he chose to
Of course.
deal with his grief. And
Of course. And if you're emotionally dead and you reach that point, if you need help, then I mean,
And the lack of emotional intelligence is what doesn't let you see that in the
Yes.
other person.
Yes.
And and that's sad. I feel like I'm raising a boy today, and I feel most men are really not held accountable for not being emotionally intelligent at a very young age. And that kind of really contributes. And I wouldn't just say men, a lot of children are not held accountable at the right time for not being emotionally intelligent, and that really affects how they grow up as individuals. And that
Absolutely.
comes in the form of hate in social media today, or in form of judgment when you see other people grieve in different ways. You just can't process it because you have only heard your mom and dad say, this is how you grieve, this is it, in the box. It cannot happen any other way.
I think, yeah, like you said, when people grieve differently, there's something called a grief brain. So, what happens is your attention is diverted, your decision making skills are impaired, you have this fog in your head. Even simple things like, say, paying bills or cooking or just, using the restroom at the right
what
time.
color do I put on my nails?
Yeah, all these are questions that you're probably in a trial room, buying clothes, and you just break down. So, different people have, like, the grief brain also disassociates in different ways.
100%.
So, like there is a brain fog and you don't know how to get out of it. Every human will deal with it differently. Sometimes drugs, sometimes alcohol, sometimes holidays,
Sometimes sex.
Yeah, sometimes, yes, grief sex is a thing.
That
Yeah,
is a
yeah, yeah.
It is a big thing.
Because you're looking for that next dopamine hit to give you that happiness, right? And that is
Exactly.
why you're looking and seeking
Yeah.
for all of this. But at some point, like you realized it, thank God, thankfully you
Thank
realized
God,
it.
yeah.
I had a friend, it's a very small story where he was in a car right after graduation, 5 boys. One of the boys was going to Australia, and this happened, I think, 2 decades ago, right after college, a friend of mine. And then, they go for a tea at 4:30, and this car topples. Now, in the car, all 4 of them died,
What?
except him.
That
Right?
will be so
Yeah.
traumatic.
So the parents had to actually relocate him out of the country.
Oh my God.
Actually, one of them stayed alive for a bit more. And then, this
so
guy,
sorry for this. Oh
yes,
God.
I mean, this was a school friend that I grew up with, and I never saw him again except like he had to take a year off, another year off to just like recuperate because, sometimes you think, why was I the chosen one to stay alive, right? Like,
Why
he's
this
a-
trauma? Why
Yeah.
am I left behind? with
Yeah,
this
and
trauma?
that is also another sort of, trauma that you're going to
Right,
deal
of
with.
course.
You've lost your friends, you've stayed alive. Why are you alive? But then I spoke to his mother once, and he said that, years down the line when he got married and he had a child, he realized that, if you are left behind in a grieving situation, you have a purpose.
I was just gonna say that word, and you snatched it out of my words.
Yeah.
That you had a deeper purpose.
Yeah.
Maybe that is God's and universe's way of teaching you something, and that's what acceptance. The second thing that I always wanted to talk about, and again, going back to the power of now, it talks about most of our trauma and most of our grief is because we resist life. The moment you stop resisting life and you start accepting the is, like what's happening, everything becomes bearable.
Absolutely. And,
You know-
you were talking about books and movies. Eat, Pray, Love, Elizabeth
Oh,
Gilbert, after her divorce and loss, and
Did she write the movie? Was she the
Elizabeth Gilbert was the writer of the
right.
book, and of course, Julia Roberts is the
was
movie.
the shining star in the
Yes,
movie? Love it.
absolutely. Now, her grief helped her reshape her identity. So, what she did was food, spirituality, and love is what she chose.
Best things that one can
Absolutely.
ever choose.
Absolutely. And I think you chose that. And the reason I brought up this context is because
sure.
I feel that, food.
I
I don't
chose
talk about your
spirituality
calories.
No, I chose spirituality first.
Yeah.
And then food, I
Yeah.
did, in terms of food, I think I drank.
Yeah.
And then I married Gautam.
Yeah.
A year after, I chose love.
Yeah, see, you just followed Elizabeth Gilbert's
Without
model.
knowing.
Like that
Actually,
thing.
it was her. I'm sure psychologically she had done a lot of research that this is what most people do, and that I followed the same path.
I mean, these are the ways that you get out of. But your identity reconstruction is about putting you on a completely new path after that grievous
100%.
journey.
It changes you as a person.
Yeah. I mean, today, the fact that, in your late 30s, you have such a very, clear schedule of what you want is also a reconstructed life
It is.
path, right?
Of course, because
Yeah.
after losing dad, I realized how important time is.
Yeah.
And how much of time I have already wasted.
Yeah, and how much more you want to do.
How much more I want
Whereas
to do.
for someone like me, I have just gone into the other side. I'm like, fuck life, I'm just gonna chill. And it's so nice because, I was in a job, but I was working 21 days, I fainted. I'm like, fuck this shit, dude. I mean, I just need enough money to live. But I want to be happy, I want to sleep. So that's what I'm saying, right?
I have been there though.
Yeah.
Like I have been there.
Yeah, it's a cycle, I think.
It is a cycle.
Sometimes you're hyper productive and sometimes, you're just like hyper lean, like on life. Yeah, exactly. And it's okay because, I feel that whatever mode that you process life, if you're happy at the end of the day,
your purpose served.
that is it. That's all that matters.
You are a successful human being. To sum this up, I do have a beautiful statement and verbiage, if I should say. It says, and I heard this somewhere, that grief is the kind of love which has nowhere to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I've only read this line about grief through the years, and I genuinely believe that at the end of the day, if you had to underline a word there, it's love. I think it's the continuity of just love for yourself, love for what you do, love for your routine, love for your non-routine, love for anything that you think.
Love for the one that's gone, love for the one you're worrying about being
love for the bird that comes in and checks on you.
Love,
love for sleep, love for eating,
love
right?
for yourself.
Absolutely. And that these are the ways that I think that you can get out of grief, like phase out of it. Psychologist Robert Neymeyer says that healing comes when we find meaning in loss, not answers, but the significance. So it's not about what answers you immediately get today or tomorrow, but if there's a significance of it. Like I think in your case, significance was throwing back your head to the time when you grew up with your parents with a very sort of, like there was a discipline to your life, right?
No, I think the meaning I found from my dad's death was that if I had this kind of a rigorous or sincerity to while he was alive, he would have seen the happy days.
Yeah. And now
that's not a regret, that's a meaning.
Yeah, that is the meaning. Yes.
Of his loss.
Yes.
And that's why I implement it today.
Yeah.
I have no time to lose. I don't want my mom to go away without seeing the good days, thinking I will do it at one point. It's all right. Today, one day I drink with my friends. I am losing no time. But my friend, I know that time is of the essence for me right now. That is what he has taught me while he was alive, and that is what he taught me while he is gone. But what's sad is the fact that how grief is all about love, and yet people find an excuse to throw in hate there.
Yeah.
And that is ridiculous and beyond disgusting.
Absolutely.
And we're always trying to spread joy and positivity because, for Jane and I, it's truly in a world, and I say this with utmost love for both of us because we are both women in a world that doesn't really hold us power or hand us power, and we have fought tooth and nail to be the women that we are today, and I'm sure we are going to continue to do so.
I'm so sorry, before we end this episode, I really want to talk about Van Gogh, and his eccentricity.
He's amazing.
Yeah, so he created 2,000 works of art in 10 years, okay?
What?
Yeah, 2,000
amount
works of art.
Which means this man did not have any other life.
No.
Tell me he secluded himself into some...
He did. And so he sold only one within his lifetime.
Oh.
So, you were talking about your father not seeing you.
Right.
I don't think the world saw Van Gogh before he died.
He didn't see himself.
He lived in intense poverty, loneliness, and mental illness. And the reason I'm talking about this is now, we're talking about others looking at us. I'm talking about people who are struggling and suffering with grief or an illness where they're constantly
and who don't have a voice yet, maybe.
Like the Starry Night, which is one of his most famous paintings, wasn't just a sky. It was turbulence, insomnia, longing for calm. So we're all struggling with some sort of internal battle.
He was grieving himself.
He was grieving, and he painted the sunflower series as a symbol of hope and friendship, but also to combat the depression he was feeling inside. So for those who are struggling on the inside, forget the outside world, because you and I have learned to look at it look at life
Yeah.
more positively.
Yeah.
But here was someone who actually wrote this letter to his brother. I put my heart and soul into my work, but I've lost my mind in the process. So there are people who, extremely find it difficult to, deal with whatever they're dealing with, right? Whatever pain that they're going. So when you're burning out, and traditionally they say he shot himself in his head at 37, and I don't want to
My
end this
age.
episode, yeah, like that. But imagine a genius was born out of, in his head, he thought the sadness is going to last forever. But at
And
the
he
end of the
couldn't take it
day, he
anymore.
couldn't take it anymore. And sometimes it happens, right? But if somebody is grieving like that, where they're not able to get out like you or me, and how we process it, and maybe there's some sort of eccentric genius in them, it's good, no matter what your end is or what your beginning is, it's good to put yourself out there to do whatever it is that you love.
Yeah.
And in your case, what you're doing is you're walking a pageant, and you're like inspiring so many women to not just look at, going into a pageant just for the, physical constructs or
Do
whatever.
what you love. Like,
Yeah,
put
you're
yourself.
doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So you don't feel the regret.
I don't, because
Yeah.
I have done both sides, right? I have seen me being affected by all of this hate and secluding myself in a room and being depressed.
Yes.
But I like this, where
Yes.
I am vulnerable.
Yeah.
I'm accepting that, yes, the hate
Yes.
hurts.
Yes.
But I still use that to fuel me.
Yeah.
To build myself back up.
Absolutely.
And I know that not everyone has the courage, because it takes immense amount
some
of courage.
people are struggling so much that whether it's art or literature or a pageant
They
or
just don't
whatever,
have the courage to
they
bounce
don't have
back.
the courage, or they don't have that internal, or maybe mentally they are, in a
Not
place
as
where they're
strong.
not able to get out of
Put
it.
in the work.
Yeah, so they can't put in the work, or sometimes it's just like a dead end. But even if it is, do what you love till what you love ends you, is what I would love to say.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And for each one of us, like the ones spreading love, understand that as human beings, we all have an inner demon within us, right?
Yeah.
We have the good and the bad. And it's literally every morning when you wake up is the choice you make, that today I decide to be a good human being. It's one day at a time. You have
I
no
feel-
idea what people are going through.
Yeah, I think every person you're gonna cross in the road or you meet online is going through a battle that nobody
one
has any.
sees.
For all of us out there, the dips and the highs are going to keep coming.
It is going to keep coming.
It is just how you sort of don't get yourself drowned in the process. Like,
Yeah.
ask for help, work on yourself, look at
Spread
how
love and joy, or don't
yeah.
do anything at all.
Yeah, just be yourself. It's okay.
Just
even if-
don't do anything. If you cannot spread love and joy
Yeah.
and kindness, just do nothing.
Absolutely.
That's the key.
And that's okay. And when you want to do something again, you can do it. But choose
That you're going to be good.
going out there and doing something like fuck all, like, pull somebody else down, or, make somebody else's life miserable.
Honey, that's a reflection on you, not
Yes.
That's really on you and not onto us, okay? But that's us wrapping it up. And we are so grateful that you guys give us your time and give us your ears and eyes and all of it, and listen to everything that we have to say with such patience.
Yeah, it's a different sort of episode because usually we do very like scandalous.
Yeah,
topics,
but today I think
we're like,
she was the one who wanted to actually
Yes.
speak about grief, and I immediately said yes, because
I saw you go through it, and I was going through my own version of it,
Yeah.
which is not probably as hardcore as yours.
yeah,
at that point.
grief doesn't have to be death always.
No,
you
it
know.
doesn't have to be. And I was looking at, how I felt a bit sad, after being in that hustle culture for so long and taking a break. That was also a
It is.
grievous process.
I grieved my whole social life ending, and again, a therapist helped me. And I remember telling her that, I miss that side of me. She's like, what you miss is, Rinima, that you're not that person anymore. So
Yeah.
you have to make the decision. Who is the Rinima that you're happy with?
Absolutely. But the whole idea is that you're evolving as a person.
I am.
Through your grief, through your loss, through your love, through your wins, through your ups, through your highs. And so the whole psychological concept of, tying it all together is that through the vicious circle of life, find you. That's it. Right now, I think in your case, like whatever your dad broke, you put together with like beautiful gold. And now this kintsugi is what you're presenting to the world. And,
Yeah.
and I wish you all the success, which is why
Thank you.
I want to talk about grief, because for anyone struggling and who's in that phase that you were in immediately after your dad died, and that stage, you're here.
I am.
So we'll all get there to a place if we just allow ourselves through that journey.
Yes, allow yourself the time, do your work. But hey, you guys, also on that note, before I go away, please do wish me luck. I
Yes.
am going to go away in 35 days. You're filming this today. I think it's the 23rd of September. On 30th of October, I am competing for
I
Mrs.
think
India
by the time
World.
this episode comes, you will be there.
Oh, I'll be there for sure.
And
So
I
wish
think
me
it's going
luck.
to be fantastic. I wish you luck. I think it's going to be an incredible journey, not just at the India level, but also at the global level. And I feel that your purpose, like I feel from whatever I've observed of you online, offline, and in person, is that you will at least inspire one girl child or, boy child in whatever stage of life they are
Enough.
to just like get out of their shell, break the mold.
And dream big.
Yeah.
And chase it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's about it. Dove's kind of giving us an alarm that it's done. He needs to go for his walk. We love you guys. We'll see you on another episode. Thank you so much for tuning into the Komo Show. And don't
Grief is a love. Grief is love with no place to go.
Yes, that's all you need to remember. It is love at the end of the day. Thank you. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and tell us what more you guys would like to see. Subscribe as well, guys. Bye. Next time, maybe I'll see you with a crown.